You can't handle the truth.
I told you, man. I told you. Don't fuck with me.
I want to win. I try. And if I don't, it's to promote something I believe in very sincerely. And that's what the young people especially are interested in.
That's something that Ron Paul wants to promote, ending the war in Afghanistan and staying out of military intervention unless Congress is willing to declare war.
The people are sick of these wars. Democrats and Republicans are pro-war. And the young people don't like it. They're paying for it. They don't want to fight them. They want our troops to come home.
Ron Paul says that message is resonating with young voters.
My job is to deliver a message and get people excited and get them involved, and literally thousands are, if not millions, are involved. I mean, the truth is we get bigger crowds out than the rest, but it goes unreported. I mean,
Paul says the news media isn't accurately reporting his support. At a fundraiser near Union Square, we heard a lot of that.
Well, the media isn't treating him as well as they should be.
They don't ask him enough about policy.
I think more people would support him, actually, if the media were honest about what's going on with him and didn't hide his name from polls and just completely eliminate him.
Young people telling us the media isn't giving Ron Paul his due. But in Wisconsin this week, young voters picked Mitt Romney over Ron Paul, and that same age group, 18 to 29, was just 10% of the total Wisconsin turnout.
I'll tell you what, they may play a role this time if I'm not the nominee and they're tired of Obama because they've been sort of burned with him because he didn't stop the wars and he still sends the feds over here to crack down on anybody who uses medical marijuana. They're sick of all that stuff.
Paul says young voters may influence this next election by just sitting it out. And for that matter, he may not vote for the Republican nominee.
Well, it would be pretty hard to support somebody that I have no agreements with.
Paul says it would be hard, but he also says he hasn't and doesn't have to make that decision just yet. After tonight's speech, he's heading back to his home state of Texas to do some campaigning there. Reporting from Berkeley, Mark Matthews, ABC 7 News.
Some strategic staging behind Mark there. All right, Mark, thanks very much.
Coverage. Republican presidential candidate and Texas Congressman Ron Paul was in the Bay Area today. He was at a fundraising luncheon in San Francisco, and then he spoke at UC Berkeley tonight. KRON 4's Charles Clifford was in the East Bay and has more.
Around 7 o'clock Thursday evening, Congressman Ron Paul walked to the stage before a crowd of several thousand here on the campus of UC Berkeley.
I hope I'm different than the other politicians. That's what I'm hoping.
The Republican candidate for president spoke for nearly an hour, touching on some of his most popular themes, including reducing the federal deficit, ending foreign military intervention, eliminating the Federal Reserve, and reducing the size of the federal government.
We have a system that is destined to change. The big question before us is, what's it going to change to? Are we going to accept more authoritarianism and tyranny, or are we going to accept the cause of liberty and return those freedoms to the American people?
Despite being on a traditionally liberal campus, the Republican congressman was met with a very supportive audience.
He has some very good views, especially on the war on drugs, on the way America views its foreign policy. But on his internal stuff, like especially with the Fed and IRS and the way he approaches tax, I think it can be a little idealistic.
I thought it was an amazing speech. I think Ron Paul is probably going to be the best candidate out there, in my opinion. He's very influential, and he has a lot of great ideas that I think would make a huge difference to people.
On the campus of UC Berkeley, Charles Clifford, KRON 4 News.
It's halfway through, so and we don't know exactly how many delegates we're going to get, but a lot more than is on the scoreboard right now because there's a lot of process going on in all the states where the straw votes were obtained. We have a lot of energy on people who are very much engaged in becoming delegates. So I think it's a couple of months before we know exactly how these numbers will play out.
There's a chance that this could go to the convention and things could be decided there too. Do you think it'll turn out that way, or what do you see happening at the GOP convention?
I think it's a possibility. It would be unusual, of course, because usually and I'm sure those who are in charge or ahead, they don't want that to happen, but that's the way the process could work. work, and it would be a more democratic process. You know, if this would happen, then the people who voted for the other candidates then have a little more say in the process.
Do you feel like you've gotten a fair shake in the national media? And I was thinking even in particular in the early going, say even back to the Iowa caucuses, do you think they gave you the credit and the attention that perhaps you may have deserved?
It had to get so bad that Jon Stewart had to come to my defense in making fun of it, because they would just automatically skip using my name. And then, of course, there was the big debate early on before they knew who the head, the front runner was, and they gave me a total of 89 seconds out of 2 hours. So that became pretty obvious that the message wasn't to be heard.
You're the oldest candidate out there, a senior member of Congress, and yet you resonate with so many young people. In fact, in California, you're touring universities, Chico State, UCLA, Cal Berkeley. Why is it that you resonate so well with this younger group of people? The
most common answer I get is, well, you're the only one that's telling the truth. And I said, yeah, but they say the same thing. And, well, we don't believe them. So there's this attitude that I'm trying to tell them exactly what's wrong and what can be done. Even though I have a dire message about how bad things are, the students, young and with open minds, they come away being very optimistic, because they at least say, well, you're telling us the truth and you give us the things that we can do and how we can change things. Personal liberty, mind your own business, take care of yourself, make your own decisions. They don't like the wars that are going on. They don't like the idea of inheriting this debt. That's one big thing they don't like.
A big issue here in the Bay Area right now is medical marijuana, legalizing marijuana, and I know you're going to be talking to folks in Berkeley, and it's a big issue there right now. What would you say to them, or are you going to bring that up? Will you talk about that kind of thing? Where do you stand on that?
I say the feds should get lost. They have no business. If they write a law and said medical marijuana is a reasonable thing to ask for, the feds shouldn't come in and arrest people who are doing this, obeying the California law. I think people have the right to put into their minds and into their souls and into their bodies whatever they want at their own risk.
We just had some new polls come out about California. Perhaps less than 35% of Californians are registered Republicans now. It seems that 2/3 of the people are Democrats. How do you change that, or is there a way to change that? How does the GOP party reconnect, or can it?
I think they could if they look at the campaign we're running and the people who support me, because a lot of them used to be Obama supporters. And you can't say that about any other Republican because of this civil liberty issues, this personal liberty and anti-war. And the Republicans, I think, are digging a hole for themselves. They don't want, they complain about Obama not fighting enough wars, and they want to be more engaged. And young people don't want the wars to continue nor to pay for them. So I think the only way you can appeal to a broader base is to change his message a little bit. And I think the old message, even the old message of being fiscal conservatives, they've lost all credibility.
Ron Paul, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.